someone asked me or got brought up in my stream today, and someone compared Badoo to like Decidueye, where it's like, which is what you kind of just said right there for a second. You did backpedal a little bit, which I think is correct to have done because it's not going to be like everything plays Badoo, then no one plays Badoo, then
It's
everything
not like
plays
that,
Badoo.
yeah.
Yeah, Badoo's always going to be there, and it's more like a Garbodor situation where it's like Garbodor is the best thing in the format, so you have to play and build your decks around not putting too many
I
items
don't think
or in the discard pile for trash lunch. No, but he's not gonna have the same effect. But it's the same thing on a lower scale. Like if Garbodor was a 10 out of 10,
much lower.
Badoo's like a 3 or 4 out of 10,
Okay.
right? Because Garbodor probably is the 10 out of 10. Is anything else had the same impact that Trash Lunch plus Ability Lock Garbodor had when they released at the same time?
They
I don't
didn't
think
release at the
anything.
same time, but
No, no,
yeah,
no.
and
But when
the
the Trash Lunch finally came out
I see
to
what
go
you're saying.
alongside it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think so. And if for anyone who's uninformed, we could actually just kind of go down this story real quick about what we're talking about. Back in 2017, the format was super, super fast. Everyone's decks were incredibly turbo built, heavy on like trainers' mails and flying through their deck.
Shaman.
Decidueye Vileplume was like the best deck in the format at the time. People just flew through their deck, locked both players out of items, and then that was it for the rest of the game. But then one set after Decidueye had come out, this Garbodor came out with the Trashalanche attack, which did 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. And this card had an immediate massive impact on the game. One of the most famous tournaments of all time was the Seattle Regional Championships that happened in 2017, right after this card came out. Where if you look at day two, which back then was just top 32, it was like 26 or something Garbodor decks.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and before
24, 28 Garbodor, or no, 24. Yeah, 24 Garbodor decks.
yeah, share your screen with me real fast on the
Oh, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I think Badoo has a similar impact because like after a couple tournaments, it wasn't the same percentage of uh Garbodor decks to Garbodor decks. Like decks adapted and adjusted, kind of like what we saw in this first Champions League with like the Lances in the Dragapult decks. And then you see some decks that just kind of compete against the Badoo deck's a little bit better, like the Archaludons being like better plays, it seems like. So I think Badoo is gonna have it's gonna have the Garbodor effect, but on like a lesser scale, like I said, a 3 or 4 out of 10 compared to the 10 out of 10 that was Garbodor. Because I don't know if we've seen anything like that where Garbodor it did bring some new archetypes to the table, but it really drastically changed how people approached deck building. Um, which is, like, the biggest thing I feel like like, a lot of decks changed up how they were built because like, even when you look at stuff like, Broken Lugia, no one
Yeah.
changed how they built their deck, they were just struggling to keep up.
Yeah, this was definitely, I think it's probably the most, yeah, it fits that description better than any card in the history of the game for sure. So this was the first tournament where this card came out, and then people did adapt, right? If you look at the next tournament, the Madison Regional Championships, which took place just a week later, or a week and a half later, or 2 weeks later, I guess,
Yeah.
something like that. Which you yourself got top 8 at this tournament with the perfect example of adapting to the format. There's only one. We went from this top cut in Seattle, where it was almost all Garbodor decks, to
So with
Madison.
the Lapras.
Yeah, the Lapras. Shout outs to the Lapras, Patch City over there. And then there's just one Garbodor deck in this top cut. All these other decks were built with Garbodor in mind,
Yeah,
building slower, strategies, high HP, psychic resistance with the Metagross GX from Shemansky. You yourself playing the Volcanion deck that was a lot like, previous to this, people were playing Shaman and Skyfield and Hoopa
Max
and
Elixir.
the Max Elixirs and Trainers Mails, all these dozens of items cards, and now you've thinned it down, 3 versus Seeker, 3 Ultra Ball, things people would have never thought of doing, right?
Yeah.
In reaction to that card coming out in the format.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing around Badoo a little bit, and I think it's like yeah, I think the meta and format will like change up a decent amount, which is cool. Not going to be like any drastically new archetypes, but it will just like shake things up enough where I think it keeps the game fresh enough until we hit rotation, which is still a little ways away for us.